What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. On this episode, we're going to be focusing back on the K-Swap budget build for the EK hatch. I have the engine right here on the stand, and where I left off, we need to get this thing all taken apart so that I can clean everything up, repaint it, put it back together with new gaskets and seals, and then after that, it'll pretty much be complete. I did get a stage 2 clutch in, and on the last episode, I did finish painting the transmission and everything. Now, I cleaned up my area really well because I like to be very organized when I do things like this, and whenever things are not tidy and not organized, it just makes me pretty much drag ass and not want to do it. So I took the time and made sure that all my work area and everything was cleaned up in order to tackle this. So we have the valve cover nice and wrinkled black coated, the transmission's repainted. Like I said, I got the stage 2 clutch in, got the gaskets and seals and whatnot, and a couple of other things. I got this for the shifter cable to go through the firewall, and I did get a bracket for the shifter box, and got various gaskets and seals that I need in order to tackle this job, along with some paint. So that is the goal of this episode. We need to make progress on this project, because right now I'm waiting for that radiator to get back from fabrication, and it's been taking quite a while. So it's one of those things. I wish I could be driving the Z31, but it is what it is. It's out of my hands. So we're gonna focus on this project and make some headway on it. So that's what we got, guys. Stay tuned. Alright, just like that, I got the timing cover off and I got the oil pan off. Now, it's best to take the oil pan off and then take the timing cover off, because the timing cover seals to the bottom of the oil pan. And to make life a lot easier when removing the oil pan, I like to use like a scraper knife like that with a dead blow, and I like to get between the crease and hammer it in between to break the seal, work my way around like you saw in the time lapse, and then once it gets loose enough, you could wedge a flat blade in between there and work it loose. And then after that, the timing cover comes off relatively easy. You're in for a fight if you try to take it off with the oil pan on. It just doesn't allow you to properly leverage the timing cover with the oil pan on. So that's the reason I went in that order. And then I realized when I pulled the timing cover that the solenoid needs to come out first. So learned my lesson on that. But I wanted to take that off in order to inspect the the guides and everything looks to be in proper order. So I have no worries about this engine. Everything looks good. So now I'm gonna take the time and clean a lot of this RTV off on the bottom and around the timing cover. I'll be replacing the front crank seal, and I will be replacing the rear main seal once I get it off the stand. But with the pieces off, it will allow me to clean them very thoroughly and paint them, so when I put them on, they're nice and pretty and new, and it allows me to get in between crevices and everything a lot easier. So difficult part about cleaning these engines is down on this bottom part right here. You have to get creative to get all that clean, so I'm gonna have to take my time and clean this up a little bit better before I mask things off and paint it. But yep, that's one of the reasons I took it apart. I just wanted to examine the timing components, so now I can rest assured that everything on this is good, and we can carry on. So we'll get this thing painted up and put back together, and then once we do that, we'll see where we end up on the video. All right, so I got the engine block and head cleaned up for the most part, and I used brake cleaner, wire brush, and Scotch-Brite. Now, you don't have to make it perfect, but you do want to make sure that it is nice and mostly cleaned around everywhere. Now, there's some difficult spots to get in the corners, but I got them as best as I could. I made sure I got inside the crevices right there where the head meets to the block. So everything is cleaned up for the most part. I didn't go crazy masking things off. I just masked sensors and coolant outlet and other sensors like that, and I stuffed some rags inside the intake port, and I will do that on the exhaust side as well. And I'm going to take a piece of cardboard, that way whenever I'm spraying towards this side, I'll put it up against there so no overspray gets onto the internals of the engine, and I'll be careful when I do that. But basically that's pretty much what I do whenever I'm, you know, spraying an engine block. I used to go all crazy and, you know, mask everything off, but you don't have to do that. You can still get it applied on nice and even. Just got to be careful around the seams, not to get any overspray on. But since we're spraying aluminum paint onto an aluminum surface, it don't take a whole lot of paint in order to refresh it. So I did clean up the timing cover, and I'm going to leave the seal in while I spray this, and then I'll knock the seal out once it cures, and then I have a new seal to replace it with. And I leave the seal in there because it masks the inside of the sealing surface of the seal. So once I knock it out, I'll put the new one in, it'll be ready to go. So pretty much what I got. And I leave the oil filter on as well because it masks that off as well, and I'll be replacing a new oil filter once the time comes. And I have the paint outside heating up so that it adheres better to the block. It's easier to throw warm paint than it is cold paint. And I will be putting rags in the ports on this side. I do have them on that side, so let's go ahead and tackle this. Okay, just like that, we have it painted up. Now it looks nice and new. And I did take the time and, you know, mask off the sensor, the ID plate right here, and just a couple key items. But using a piece of cardboard, you know, will definitely cut down that masking time, because if you were to take your time and mask it, it'd take you about, you know, an hour to do it just right. Now what I will do is, when the time comes to put new gaskets on there, I'll take Scotch-Brite and re-clean the surfaces just to get the paint off the sealing surfaces, and just doing that works just fine. I still got to get the oil pan cleaned up and see if that needs to be painted or not. If it don't, then I won't paint it. If it does, I will. The valve cover, sorry, the timing cover came out good. I still need to pop that seal out once it cures up all the way. And then from there, we'll be buttoning everything up, and it should look like a new engine. Alright guys, so we got the long block all painted up, and I could tell you that it looks night and day now. I did not paint the oil pan because the finish on it's still nice and pretty. I just cleaned it up very well, and I still yet have to sand off the lettering right there to make it pop on the valve cover. I'll do that in the near future, but I just wanted to come in and tackle most of the long block. Now I thought I'd be further along getting these pieces cleaned up, but as I started going through some of it, I don't have all the gaskets and everything that I need. I'm missing some, so I'm gonna take the time, make a list of all the gaskets and O-rings and stuff that I need, order them up, and then once I have them in, I'll have the parts all cleaned up and painted, and then we'll mount it on there, and then we'll be mounting the clutch, flywheel, and transmission. And at that point, this engine will be done and ready for it to be plopped into the car. But I'm still waiting on the cross member. It's being powder coated right now. I have an Integra cross member that's gonna go into the EK, and that's gonna allow me to use the Hasport mounts that I have in order to have this engine set further back into the engine bay, and you know, give me more clearance on the front and give me better alignments for the axles. So at this point, I'm pretty happy with progress I had made. And you gotta remember, guys, some progress is better than no progress. As long as you are hammering away little by little, before you know, you'll get it done. And that's kind of where I'm at. So right now I'm up in the air, just waiting on a few things to come in, like the radiator, to get that done, and also, like I said, the cross member. So I'll have this all together and ready by the time I get that cross member in, and then we'll get to tackling this thing. So that's all I have on this episode. I thank you guys for watching, and as always, like, comment, subscribe, and share. Definitely see you guys on the next episode.